Hi everybody. Wow, it's been a while since I did a live, so I'm feeling a bit nervous and a bit unprepared, but hopefully this will get the information out there, which is the most important thing. So here we go. Here's Amy. I will let you in just a second, Amy. I've just wanted to do a bit of an intro first. So I wanted to say that I saw something the other day that said that actually ostriches don't stick their heads in sand. So I need to find another analogy. But whatever it is that fits, that's what I've been doing. Some of you know, I'm studying to become a counsellor at the moment. So everything's been incredibly busy and I haven't had a lot of headspace to think about the Children's Wellbeing in Schools Bill, which is upsetting me because I know that I want to fight for educational freedom and I want to protect home education and the rights that we currently have as much as possible. So so I decided the best way to do that was to find out about it myself, and I thought while I'm doing that I might as well help to inform others and empower others, hopefully, and myself by finding out what we can do to oppose this bill. So that's the plan with this live. I post about home ed quite a bit, so have a look at my content and follow and like to keep up to date. I'll be posting more about the bill in the coming times. So my name is Jay. I run Bean Learning Online, and I offer weekly Lego and Pokemon clubs, one-to-one sessions with children, and also one-to-one parent-carer consultations. I was home educated myself. I home educate my son, who's now 16, and I also work with the home ed community, so this is definitely something that's very dear to my heart. So my guest today is Amy Miles, and I'm gonna invite her now. Here we go. Thanks everybody for watching. I hope it's useful. If you've got any questions, just pop them in the comments below. This wasn't working the other day, so I hope we managed to get this sorted. Hopefully. Come on, please work. Do you think it knows that I'm doing something political and it doesn't like me? Political. I'm pressing the button, but it's not doing the thing. So yeah, I know that some of you out there are feeling a bit anxious about this bill. So I'm just going to come at, see if I can go, I don't know what's happening. Oh, it says you're not able to join, Amy. I don't know why. It just did a little pop-up and said, not able to join. Do you think this is the same thing we had last time? Hold on, everybody. Well, think of your questions, everybody. And, oh, no, hang on. It's happening. There you are. Doesn't like us, does it, Instagram?
No, it was being really awkward. So I tried refreshing the page because, the try turning it off and on again is a brilliant, tech thing. For some reason, your screen's black.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
I can see me.
That's really weird. As long as you can see me, then let's just hope that, the viewers can see both of us, and I'm not looking
my
like
cat
I'm
wants to join in. She likes all the attention, don't you? So Amy, first of all, would you be able to just introduce yourself? So I first came across you because I joined a Facebook Messenger group, or I was put in one, about the protests that are happening on the 8th of March. And then asked if somebody would come and talk to me. But can you just give us a quick rundown of your credentials?
Yeah, so my name is Amy Miles. You can probably find me splashed all over Facebook home ed groups. And I've been home educating my son, who's now 14, from the beginning. However, I was home educated as well. And I've worked with pretty much every single major home educating organisation that there is going at the moment. And I'm currently in the Alliance and have been for quite some time, working specifically on trying to stop the government from bringing this bill, although there have been multiple other bills and consultations prior to this. Um, and it's a joy to be here this morning, even if it is this early on a Saturday morning with a teenager.
Sorry. We wanted to strike while the iron was hot, didn't we? Firstly, could you, because like I said, I've been terrible at researching this. I've sort of seen little bits here and there, but I've just been so desperately busy with everything else that I'm doing that I haven't really had a chance to engage. So could you give us a kind of like a 101 basic sort of overview of what this bill is and how it might affect home educators specifically?
Yeah, so if I break it down into the different clauses, then people can kind of see that whilst this bill isn't just about home educators, there are bits not just in the home education section. So clause 4 actually says that they're going to introduce a unique identifier, and this identifier is going to be a number that will stay with your child throughout their life. And lots of people kind of say, well, what's the problem with that? And as we've noticed, the councils aren't exactly great at putting accurate data and information in, but then they're going to have this big database with all of these numbers going in and out, with professionals putting their information onto this child's number, and then other professionals accessing it using that number. So there's a huge potential for mistakes to be made, but they're also going to use AI to organise the whole thing. So I'm highly skeptical. And when they tried to do this in 2008, they called it Contact Point, and it was going to cost £250 million back in those days in old money. So you can imagine like our reservations around that part of the bill. Then you've got the whole home ed section, which is sections 25 to 30. So I split that into 3 sections. Part 1 is who's going to have their right to home educate removed from them. So that's in clause A, send people. So anyone attending a state maintained SEND school will have to ask local authority for permission, a child protection plan, or a section 47 in case B. So any of those 3 cases, you would have to go to a local authority and say, hey, can I have permission to deregister? And as we know, local authorities aren't very responsive when we need them to be. And if this is an urgent matter and your child is in imminent danger and you are at risk of being fined for removing your child, then you obviously want a quick resolve, and you might not get that. There's no legislation in there that says local authorities must respond within so many days, for example.
Yeah,
and then you've got
there's people talking, aren't there, about things like how stab kits are getting put in secondary schools. Yeah. And you know, and I mean, I'm sure we in the home ed community particularly all know somebody who's experienced just really horrendous bullying, and sometimes from staff as well. Like some of the staff behaviours can be really problematic, and sometimes children just don't thrive in schools. It's not working for them, and you know, people trigger warning, but sometimes, you know, children become suicidal because of things like that. And in those situations, you need to be able to move fast.
Yes, and you know, there's a 7-year waiting list on chastising teachers that have been reported. So it gives you an idea of the scale of the issue that we're facing. And you've got Liz Ebury on here as well that does a fantastic job. She's a home educator as well, but she's fighting for children's rights to use the bathroom. And of course, we've seen that splashed all over the media. So there's no denying that there are problems with the school system, and that's why we've got so many parents fleeing from it. And this bill seems to kind of try and prevent those that are fleeing that might be higher risk, that they need to obviously be more aware of. The problem is the carnage in that is in tarring everyone with the same brush. They could potentially cause more harm than good, because a lot of children are on child protection plans or Section 47 investigations because of a change in their life or a situation that's happened in school. So county lines, an attempt to unalive, and you know, pupil on pupil or pupil and teacher conflict, as well as of the other kind of nature that obviously we can't say in case it gets flagged and we get bananas. So I'm very careful to use my words when we're on social media, because some of the things the AI flags up and gets us told off for. But I think you understand what I'm trying to imply there, that there are situations where children are at imminent threat of danger, and a parental right to remove a child from that situation should be kept at all costs. However, I understand the concerns after Sarah Sharif, but Sarah Sharif didn't have a CP plan, and she wasn't home educated. She was moved from one school to another, but they would like us to all think the other reasons. So I think the problem with that is, you know, it feeds well into part 2. So there's no duty stipulated there on the local authority to respond, but in stage 2 we've got this duty for the parent to respond within 15 days. So if your child isn't in school for whatever reason, you have a duty to inform the local authority of why your child was not in school. Now, the guidance notes, that the support notes that go alongside this, don't stipulate a minimum for this. So our fear is that this could be, if you got a job's worth, the minimum standard of you took your child out for a dental appointment, because we all know how rare they are now, and you missed an afternoon of school. Something that simple, and you would trigger this children not in school register duty. So that would be, you would report to the local authority the parents' details, the child's details, who has the child for how long in the case of separated parents, who is providing an education to your child. So if your child goes to an educational provision or you have online tutoring, there is a duty on the parent to inform the local authority of all of that information. And of course, the risk there is, in a situation when you've got domestic violence or domestic abuse cases, that parent is only interested in safeguarding their children, and they could be at imminent risk of harm, and they are fleeing that situation, and yet they've got this sudden duty to report to the local authority why their child isn't in school. It's the last thing that's on their mind. So it's putting an absolute unnecessary burden on parents as a whole, but particularly on home educators, because as you're walking down the road, someone could say, oh, you know, your son's such a wonderful child is so articulated, and your child asks him a few questions about what he's doing, and suddenly that's an education, and you need that man's name, address, and contact information to record it. And it's unnecessary, because learning takes place autonomously, 24/7, and they're asking us for how long we do educational instructions.
Oh yeah, so this is the bit about reporting where they get their education. I don't
Yeah.
really they haven't like fully like cemented that, have they? I don't really understand what the rules are, because there
Yeah.
seems to be a lot of chat
So
about it.
we've got the new bill that is now waiting for its third reading. So we've gone through that, and basically nothing other than a couple of grammar tweaks has changed in this section of the bill. So in section 436C, you will have a duty to report absolutely everything and everyone that has contact with your child. So specifically unsupervised contact. And it seems quite bizarre that they're saying, oh, we need to know how long that your child is spending with your partner, but then not putting a specific duty on which partner has to file the paperwork. So you can imagine that's not really going to make it any easier for parents that are separated. They're going to have to, work together in order to provide a document and furnish the local authority and satisfy their curiosity. And, in section, in part 3 of this section, we have the school attendance orders. And our worry there is it's got a really quite frustrating section that says that you have to, as part of the school attendance order, inspect the home and assess it to see if it's fit for educational purposes. There's nothing anywhere as a guidance to us to tell us what they're expecting, and so it's open to interpretation. And the problem with that is we know that the moment that we leave anything open to the local authorities' interpretation, they will vary it quite considerably.
Yeah, and I just want to say, for people who are watching this who might not be home educators, or who are new to home education, a lot of time I see this comment on Facebook groups and things about, like, well, what's the problem with local authority coming to your home and all this. And I just want to be really clear that home people who are, I mean, there's no one job title for the people whose job it is to come and check up on home educators. So, and there's no kind of standard job role, really. So it's really up to each separate council and or local authority. And what home educators have found time after time after time is local authority home education officers, or whatever they call themselves in that area, overstepping the law, showing huge amounts of prejudice, really upsetting vulnerable children and vulnerable families, and just overstepping their bounds over and over again. So it's not that we're kind of pearl clutching and saying, oh, this might happen. It's the fact that it does happen over and over and over again, and it really affects the lives of home educators. So we know already, also in terms of like data breaches, there's loads of times where emails have been sent out, and they, instead of BCCing, they've sent out like all of the email addresses of all of the home educators in that area. All sorts of situations like that. So we're talking from experience here. We know that they will overstep, that they don't understand the law, that they don't have good data protection policies or procedures, or it doesn't happen in natural reality.
There's a lot of good examples, but as we all know, bad news travels fast. And the problem with a home visit is that you can't predict what they will write as their opinion in their recollection of what happened. So they could walk into your home, see that it's absolutely lovely, be perfectly beautiful and polite to your face, but then go back to their office and write down, oh, she was absolutely awful. When I got there, she opened the door and it smelled instantly of cat pee around the house. There were dishes left on the side ready to be washed up, showing that she isn't even managing to cope with the basic chores. And, you know, they could be very opinionated if they took a dislike to you. And the problem with the system is that every local authority has their own policy, and their own policy can be snippets of whatever has been provided by law. It doesn't have to necessarily be legal. It can completely vary from central government's law to fit the local narrative, and that's why they've been given that flexibility. The problem with that is you then get certain prejudices and biases in those policies, and then you have local authority officers who implement it, and their interpretation of their own policy is then changed. And then you just get simple human factors in there where the person is going out, they've had a really bad day, they nearly had a crash on the way to your house, they turn up, they're dishevelled, they're frustrated that they've had to come out in the rain, and that you took too long to answer the door, and instantly that person's personality and their situation has caused that situation to then not be neutral or
I guess
professional.
that's the thing, isn't it? Is there's a huge power imbalance,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like an Ofsted kind of thing, except with less specificity involved. And you know, we know how problematic
Said
that is.
Ofsted because I have to tell you there is actually a council out there that have written their guidance for how they will engage with parents in an Ofsted style document.
Right. Hi Hannah, nice to have you here. Let us know if you've got any questions. So what I think I've heard so far is it seems quite complex, but I'm hearing that parts of this bill that will affect us as home educators are the home inspection, the report, the register, the reporting about education. And then there being children and families who are vulnerable, who then are unable to withdraw their children from school quickly enough to keep them safe.
So,
Is that
as part of that last bit of part 3, they've changed the school attendance order process. So currently we can be fined and just pay the fine for not adhering to the school attendance order. However, the way that it is now written is they will give you a school place, even if it's unsuitable for your child who may have an EHCP or SEND needs, they will give you a school place at any school that has availability. And if you don't follow the school attendance order and you don't comply, it's no longer a fine. It's not even a little itty bitty, little prison sentence. It's 51 weeks in jail. So they've increased that to make it a real nasty bit of, and that can be, that could be put, that could be put in place for simply refusing to provide your ex-partner's address and contact information.
I mean, that's just ridiculous. Right, I'm aware that we knew this would happen, but I'm aware that the time is ticking away, and I really want to move on so that we can make sure we can get to what we can do about it. So just quickly, you mentioned what stage the bill was in, but that information sometimes goes in one ear and out the other with me. So can you just tell us again, where are we and where do we need to go?
It's waiting for its scheduling of its third reading. After its third reading, it will then go to the House of Lords to be picked apart again and debated. However, the House of Lords can no longer then at that point stop it. It must become law because the House of Lords can't prevent it.
Okay, so we've only got two kind of stages left in which, well,
Yeah.
one stage really, in which to completely get rid of it.
Yeah.
But that, I don't know, that feels unlikely at this point. What's your
I mean,
thoughts?
like I said earlier, it's important to bear in mind that local authorities do not have to use this. And so if you build bridges with your local authority and you get them on your side, then you can use the fact that they can vary their policy in your favour. But, you know, we don't know which local authority will comply and which won't, although
So
we
it's
can
not,
kind of make an intelligent guess.
so it's not a law, or do you mean that they can choose how to read it?
Well, the way that it currently stands is that, you know, it's a legal requirement for the local authority to fill the pothole. I always go back to potholes because everyone can relate to those. The problem with the law is they can say whatever they like, but if they don't implement it, then there's absolutely no point in that law in the first place. And with local authorities being allowed to vary their policy to local need, then the local social government ombudsman can only hold them accountable to their policy. So if their policy is illegal, the only way to challenge that is with a judicial review, and that requires at least £30,000 in your back pocket.
Okay, so what you're saying is that if if this whole the way that they're going to treat home education according to the bill is a pothole, then if this is handed down to the local authorities and they can't afford it, because I think that that's going to be the biggest problem to implementation, if they can't afford it, then they can write their policies and procedures as we're going to be really light touch and we're going to focus on the people who need the most help.
Yes.
Then that's the only thing they can be held accountable to.
That's right, yeah.
I mean, that kind of makes me worry less because I just think it's going to cost them so much money. I haven't even heard from my local authority. You know, I've been home educating for
£16 million just to get the amount of staff that they need, because there's a deficit of how many staff are in the local authorities. At the moment, there are about 3 or 4 local authorities that I'm aware of that don't even have an EHE department.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So let's get to if we disagree with this bill, which hopefully, having heard what it's asking us to do, and the you know the effects it's going to have on the most vulnerable among us, and this is something I really wanted to stress today, is that I don't believe, and a lot of people don't believe, that this is going to do what it says it's trying to do, which is protect vulnerable children. I think it's going to do exactly the opposite. And as far as I'm aware, and you know, put in comments if I'm wrong, but as far as I'm aware, all of the examples that they've trotted out to vilify home educators and say that, you know, we're a risk to children are the children in those situations were actually known to the local authority, were known to be children who were vulnerable and in need of help, and they did not get the help that they needed. So there are already laws in place to protect these children, and they weren't properly enacted, they weren't properly used, and that's why those children came to harm. And so what really annoys me about this bill is it's suggesting that local authorities spend all this money on controlling us and taking away our educational freedom, and that's actually not going to help the children it's designed to help. It's bad design, purely and simply.
Bridget Phillipson actually stated on LBC News before the second reading of the bill on the 17th of December, that there will always be bad people that do bad things to children in their care. And she avoided saying that this bill will not help children like Sarah Sharif. There is to date not a single child that came to a serious case review that home education alone was used to conceal abuse. And they're using the fact that they're saying that there is evidence that home educators are abusing their children, and actually there's evidence to the contrary. We are 3 times more likely to be reported to social services, yet no more likely to be kept on social services retention. As a result, it shows that the system works, that we aren't invisible, and that we are being reported, often maliciously, and being cleared.
Yeah. And Hannah's saying that she agrees it will do the opposite. Existing laws aren't upheld appropriately. So
yeah.
So what can we do about this bill? What can we do to protect ourselves, to protect our right to home educate, and to protect our children?
There's been there's lots of opportunities. The main one is that we need to be talking to non-home educating parents. We need to be letting them know this isn't just a home education bill. The reason it's called Children's Wellbeing and Schools Bill is it will affect all parents, regardless of whether they are currently home educating or if they wish to home educate in the future. The fact that they have reduced the amount of branded items of school uniform and introduced a breakfast club are being used as a carrot and a stick approach to blindside parents into thinking that this bill is actually in the whole good, when actually, if you use and apply logic to it, they're only providing breakfast club to primary school children who attend a state school. So what about those children who've got anxiety at home? What about secondary school children? What about kids that are younger than 5? And you start to see the holes in the situation of, if you join our club and you go to work while your children are at school having their breakfast club, then they'll get rewarded and we'll look after them for you. And it's quite a frustration for parents like myself, who can see that this is just them trying to extend school hours so that you work more.
Yeah, we're back to the education system is designed to support capitalism, aren't we?
The education system, and the education system now has to try and make profit, which is why they're charging children that need to use the medical room £20 a month. They're charging children £1 a visit to the toilet, and there's so many examples of what's going on with academies, and data to support that there are more deregistrations out of academies than there are any other type of school in any ratio. That
so
it's
in
like,
terms of,
we don't have the data on home education, and I'm sitting there going, for the last 3 years, that's all I've been analysing.
Yeah, and you have the data for children in schools, and you have the data for children's mental health at the moment, which is super low and like a really big problem that we have. And why are they not connecting the dots? Anyway, that's my rant.
They say that parents are being quite fickle and just pulling their children out of school for any old reason, but actually the data shows that the majority of children are deregistered in year 11. So just as they're seeing that red ticker tape saying that they've crossed the finish line, they're being pulled out of school. So that suggests that parents are actually being very tolerant until the last minute.
Yeah, and that it's out of desperation that they're doing it. So in terms of how this bill affects parents with children in schools, so we're talking about, like, what else, what would we want to say to them?
So the the branded school uniform issue, um, the example I always give is they could have 6 branded items. They're now limited to 3. The logic in that is they double the price of those 3 branded items. It doesn't put a cap on how much those items are. So it doesn't leave parents any better off financially. The Breakfast Club is just promoting you to send your child into school and then for you to work while your child is at school. It's not there to help the family out of poverty. It's not there to help the parents be well fed before they go to work.
I
It is
suppose for some
purely for
people
those primary
that might make a
kids.
difference though. So
It
in
might.
terms of how it's impacting on parents of children who go to school, then it there's not a lot of bad stuff. It's not terrible for them, but also your point is that it's not actually as great as they're making out it is.
No, I mean, there's an awful lot more in there. It's just obviously my specialism is to look at the home education section and my experience of home education, data handling, and other elements in there, including SEN and how it disadvantages children with SEN. And the Breakfast Club is a prime example. If you have a school refuser, then you don't get breakfast.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing is that it's kind of a little bit like one aspect of talking about disability rights. One thing that I've heard a lot is like anybody could become disabled at any time, and so if parents might have a child, you know, my child was at school for a couple of years and he had a lovely time at the beginning, but as a parent of a child in school, you don't know that that's always going to be the way that it is, that they're always going to be happy in school. You know, it might be that there's undiagnosed neurodivergence, which you find out about later. It might be that they experience some really bad bullying by another pupil or by staff or teachers. You know, you don't know what's going to happen. And so protecting that right to take them out of school may still benefit you in the future, may benefit other members of your family, may benefit your friends, if it needs to be personally salient rather than a general moral ethical issue. Then there are still good reasons, I think.
Yeah.
So in
And the
terms of what we
fact that
can
they're
do,
yeah, and the fact that they're pushing for schools to now be the safeguarding partner
yeah,
is a serious concern that all parents should have, because every parent has the right to step in and say, you know, this is my child. At the same time, just incidentally as a side note, they are also reviewing the restraint policy for children. And I have had some shocking stories to tell you. But the fact that they are looking at removing the need for the school to inform the parent that this has taken place in writing is really harrowing, because it means then you've got no record and the school can kind of say it never happened, and almost gaslight the child, which is quite bizarre in my mind. But this restriction on how academies will operate is going to obviously impact parents a lot, and so it's important they contact their MP, they speak to other parents, and that people keep contacting the media, because the media still haven't listened to us. They think we're a minority.
yeah. So in terms of what we can do, just to make it into like a really clear list. So we've got talk to parents who are not home educators, like basically spread the word about why this bill is not a good thing. And what about, has the time passed for contacting members of parliament, or is there still?
No, it's still a really good idea to lobby. And remember, you are wining and dining these MPs. They don't have a duty to represent you. You really do have to work on them and get them to represent you, because it is so important. We've seen that this is a war on parents. It's not just home educators.
So, so in terms of doing that, like, is there, because what I always find is that I think about, I'm being really honest and vulnerable here, but I think about writing something and then I get panicky that I'm going to say the wrong thing, or that or that it's just going to take a really long time to do research, and that's time that I don't have. So are there any kind of shortcuts to this? Is there like a pro forma somewhere?
So the
Or
reason that there's not a template is because templates get bounced back as through spam filters and whatever. The best way of speaking to your MP is face to face, because they can't respond with a template. They can't get somebody else to reply on their behalf. And so you can actually give them your personal story and your personal experience and how it's going to impact you, because those are powerful. Those stories, we shouldn't be keeping them quiet anymore. In fact, Jen has done a fantastic job on her website called, I'll bring this up now so I can remember, Doing Education Differently. She's gathering stories, and she's got a specific page for alumni, and the hashtag is "Are you listening now?" And that is going to be a massive digital protest on the 28th. So that will kick off a week of action leading into those rallies.
okay, so so I hear you saying that the best thing you can do is speak to your MP face to face, but I know that that's not practicable for everybody, or it's just not something that people feel that they have the skills for or the energy for, or they want to stay under the radar. So in terms of writing to MPs, is there like a specific website to go to or page, or do you just find out who your MP is? I think there's a website for that, isn't there? Find my
There is a
MP.
find your MP is the website.
Okay.
And you can find your MP, then just write to them, and they will have their own contact information. Often they have their own website, Facebook page, whatever. You can contact them then through Facebook, for example.
Okay. And are there specific things that are really useful to say? You said like share your own stories. Is it extra useful for people like us, for example, who are home educated ourselves, to get in touch with them, because we can say, look, we're useful members of society. We're still here. We're adults who can say we weren't abused, and it was a great thing for us. Is that extra useful, or?
Yes, it is, but particularly those who are alumni that have literally just finished home education,
Okay.
because that's more relevant. It's more up to date, and Jen, as I said, has got that website there where you can submit a photo and basically do a little bit of a boast about what you're up to now. So it's a bit of a good boost.
Yes. Okay. That sounds great. Okay, and then moving into the rallies on the 8th of March.
That's right, yeah. So on the 8th of March, we have 6 locations: Manchester, Liverpool, Leeds, Birmingham, London, and Exeter. So get yourself to one of those on the 8th of March.
Okay. Okay, so we're writing to our MPs, doing education differently, and going to the rallies, and that's the fighting plan. And talking on social media, I heard that it's difficult to get the word out there in some places.
Yeah, so there's quite a lot of gatekeeping, particularly by admins of local groups. They want to try and keep everything localized. They don't want the political agenda to get in there. So if you're going to a home ed meet, maybe mention it to other home educators and say, what are your thoughts? Because we've seen a few home educators that have been told not to worry about it. If you're not already registered, it won't affect you. Well, it will. And you could potentially be breaking the law without realising by following that advice. Someone said, oh, it only affects you if you've got a child protection plan. And again, this misinformation can't be challenged unless we're talking about it with each other.
Yeah, okay. What was the hashtag again?
Are you listening now?
Okay, that feels useful too. Okay, so
And
in terms of
obviously, those that aren't on Facebook, there's another option as well to stay informed. HE Bytes with a Y is a really useful website for getting snippets of information, especially for people with ADHD that can't cope with these big, long documents of
great.
information.
That sounds good. That sounds like that's for me. Okay. Awesome. And so yeah, so in terms of like finding out more, if people want to do more research, they want to see more kind of opinions and things like that, what are the best websites apart from that to look at? Are we looking at
Well, if
kind of
you,
education
yeah,
otherwise?
I mean, if you are on Facebook, then please do join the action group. It's called Home Education Action Group, and all the action will be posted in there for you to join in. There's lots of discussions around the bill. You can get yourself informed, and you can look at other supporting documents and different bits and pieces that other people are doing.
That sounds great. Okay, brilliant. And what about you? If we want to hear more from you, what's the best place to do that?
Well, you can join me on Instagram, although my main platform is TikTok because it's far more politically free to talk on TikTok, and that is Ginger Snaps Home Ed Facts. And I'm also on Substack and Blue Sky as well, because I think it's important that we get into all the different little reaches of the internet.
It took me a little while when I saw your handle. I was like, is she napping or is she snapping? I was like, either is good.
Well, the origin of it isn't the biscuit either. I mean, lots of people think of the biscuit, but actually, there was a film when I was a teenager, a trilogy, in fact, called Ginger Snaps, and it was about a ginger-haired young girl who came into that stage of her life in puberty, and unfortunately, she also at the same time got bitten. So every time she had her monthly menace, she also unfortunately became a wolf.
That sounds great. Sounds absolutely perfect. Brilliant. Okay, I think we've got all the information that we need from you
Lovely.
now. That's really helpful. I now feel like I know some stuff, so thanks for informing me, if nobody else.
Right.
But I'm sure that that other people will watch this and appreciate what you said. So thanks so much for coming today.
No, no worries.
And yeah, just I just wanted to tell everybody that my free tasters start next week. So that's weekly Lego and Pokemon chat clubs, which are run in a really unschooling kind of way. It's all connection based, it's neurodivergent friendly, and really gently held. So if you're interested in those, you can try them for free next week. So go to the website and book on. Thank you so much, Amy. I hope to see you again. I'm trying to turn it off with the
Thank you.
computer. That's not going
It's been a lot.
to work. Have a great
It's been a
day. And
pleasure.
yeah, maybe I'll see you at a rally.
That'd be
Bye.
good. Cheers. Bye.